Yeah, how about you?
I'm well, thank you.
Want to make sure that all of the audience assembled recognizes
Oh, yeah.
us and the storm.
Oh, yeah. I need this now. People don't seem to recognize me.
Thank you, sir.
Even Gillian up in the morning, she wakes with a start. He's the stranger.
Muting my phone.
All right. Why?
Sometimes I'm muting. I forget it for days.
Yeah.
Why I can't hear the phone ringing.
Okay, I want to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and call the special town council meeting to order Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. Members of the council that are present include everyone with the exception of Kevin and David. It is 4 p.m. Motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion from Chris. We have a second from Jesse. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve, motion carries 5-0. Unfinished business number 1. Excuse me. Okay.
Fill up lots of water.
Update regarding WDA distribution system project.
Yeah, we'll wait for Deb. But short version is we have the bond from this project, and the project came under budget. So there's a total of $530,178.17 that we can draw down, much of which is already going to be needed for pressure reducing vaults and landscaping, but it's still going to leave an excess of around $260,000 that the town can use for perhaps the meter pit project instead of pulling that out of Green Place and other projects. But for the details, I turn it to Deb.
Right. So essentially, it is projected that we will come in about $260,000 under budget. And what is left of that, you all need to decide what we will use that money for. It can be projects related to the distribution system. Steve and I have been talking through a couple of items. We have a few that we're tossing around, still waiting for details, but some of them are related to a few streets that were part of the distribution project that was already contracted. So we'll be looking to Greenwich to provide us bids for that to see if that would fit into the money. The chlorine room needs an upgrade, and there's some work that possibly could be done in conjunction with the Potomac River pumps that would be advantageous to us at this time. So Steve is investigating all those things. Now, for the purpose of looking at that money, you want to keep $260,000 in your mind. But we're not going to know that true number until we finish with the PRV vault and the rest of that landscaping. And in order to finance the rest of that landscaping, so on the table, there's a chart, and this is the projected what we think is gonna happen based on the estimate for the land, for what we already did this in budget. This is what we think is gonna happen, with the rest of the project money. So if you look at the chart on the bottom left, Christian and the mayor, that is your total summary of all the money in the project, what has been spent and what is remaining. And you see at the bottom right-hand corner of that bottom left-hand chart, $706,132. So that's what's left to spend out of the combined funds from the grant and the bond, okay? If you move up to the top left chart, bottom right corner at the bottom, remaining balance $175,954 is what's left out of the WDA grant money that we have to spend, okay? And then over on the CNB loan, $530,176 is what's left to draft out of the total $700,000 that the bond was written for, okay? So what's gonna happen when we get our final bill from TerraWorks that's gonna cover the PRB vault, which at this time is scheduled for the 3rd week of November. We're gonna use up all that $175,000 from the WDA grant, and we're gonna still owe them money. So we're gonna then pull money out of that $530,000, and we anticipate that we'll probably have to take all of whatever the balance is between the 260 that I just told you about and this 530, which I'm not, what is that, 280? That's about 280 that we're gonna owe TerraWorks, and we're gonna use our loan money for that, and then we're gonna have about 260 left. So we're gonna get that final bill. If they put that PRV vault in November, we should be getting that in the December meeting, and that's gonna give Steve time, who just came in, to do a lot of research and get some bids from from Greenridge, and come up with some ideas that we can utilize with the rest of this money with, okay? So at this time, what you need to do is authorize that we draw that $530,178.17 from the bond funds so that it's drafted against the bond and put into our construction account. And that way, the bond is closed now, and our full principal and interest payments will begin November 3rd, and for the full term of the loan.
So what we draw down though, they won't affect our payment, right? Just the duration of the, okay, so we'll be paying the same monthly.
We're gonna say
okay.
we can't change that.
Right.
If you are not comfortable with the 530 and you wanna draw less for some reason, the only effect that's gonna have is the duration of the payment.
What is the duration?
It's a 30-year bond, I think, yep.
And that motion will be under item 2, which is to draw.
Right, so this was just an update on the project and explaining what we're here to do today. And then there's gonna be a little bit more action on that actual 260,000 we'll talk about after we get through the first motion of number 2.
So are we on item 2 now?
Number 2, let me read it for the record. Discussion action regarding final draw on CNB bond.
Per the discussion that just took place, I move to draw $530,178.17 from the CNB bond, or the amount sufficient to fully draw down all the remaining bond funds for projects to improve the water distribution system.
For a second on that motion. Second, Jesse, discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Yes.
Discussion action regarding maintenance of mains contract.
Okay, so now, you know that we have the meter pit, we have the meter replacement project coming up, waiting on the EPA for that. To prepare for that, many of our meter pits need cleaning and repairs and replacement. We have already contracted with Greenridge to perform that work ahead of the contractors that will come in and actually do the meter replacement, because they want that to be a plug and play thing and not, oh, this is a problem, we have to stop. Originally, previous council assigned that contract, which is up to $40,000. They bid 20 but we allowed it to 40 because the bid didn't include any parts and only included an estimate of number of pits, okay, that needed work. That money was assigned to come out of renew and replace. There's currently $188,000 in renew and replace. So we're suggesting, Budget and Finance had a discussion, and the suggestion is to reassign this project, which has to do with the meters, to come from the C&B loan proceeds that you're going to get this part, and make that part of this 260,000. And so that is one of the items up for discussion in this whole maintenance of mains item.
Purpose of doing that would be, it would leave the renew and replace funds in place now, right?
Right, and
Okay.
give us, you know, it just gives us more insulation there for any problems that would happen. If for some reason we came up with a formula of projects, and let's say we spend 40,000 on that, leaves us 220, and we come up with $230,000 worth of work that you'd like to have done. This will all be distribution system upgrade, maintaining, renewing, and replacing what we already have. So at that time, we could opt to take 220 from the bond money and 10 from the renew and replace, if you wanted to kind of do it that way, if you see the point in the shift that we're talking about. So that is one item. The other thing, which is an update from Budget and Finance that has to do with maintenance of mains, is that due to the staffing changes that we've had recently in the water department, the ability to work on leaks that have appeared and volunteered for us is non-existent. We do not have the staff to provide that support. So there are currently 4 leaks that Steve has had Greenridge quote with a single deployment to address all 4. One of the strategies that we talked about in Budget and Finance was, during this time where the staffing is limited, we already have our maintenance of mains contractor. We were looking to give Steve a little bit more leeway in not having to come and get approval on every single one of these, unless it's we have the authority if it's an absolute catastrophe, but otherwise he should be bringing them forward. So Budget and Finance came up with a plan for that based on the staffing changes and the implications on the budget. Okay, but now that we've gotten these quotes, which are $35,000 worth for 4, that plan that we came up with really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we have been contemplating 10,000 a month for this and
Right.
that, and this is a much larger basket.
And according to Steve, I mean, all of these have appeared within the last 4 to 6 weeks. Would that be true to say?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So 10,000 a month doesn't seem to be something that is really very effective. I mean, in terms of just trying, I mean, I guess it couldn't hurt, but you might as well just come and meet about it if we're gonna have a bunch of them. It would be better to group a bunch together and do this every 3 months, kind of. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, mobilization.
Mobilization alone is like $1,500, and when you group them all together, it's very likely that these numbers will come down. And they don't know exactly what they're getting in, but they are pretty efficient and they move around from project to project,
So those quotes are based on each one of those leaks as an individual project? Is that,
but one mobilization to come and address all of them.
Okay.
Yes,
Sort of separate one.
okay,
right,
I think you did it with the understanding that you would, well,
together, yeah.
I think it makes sense to get them all, because you may have others following.
Right.
Later.
And I told you, what did I told you 4, didn't I? It's 5, right? 25? I know.
Overwhelmed.
might be 40, that's 40 high, and that's the repositional line.
one of those is a
So
warranty.
is this,
job, right?
That's
Warranty
the-
jobs?
Pull the meter out of the house and get the line.
so is this not our work?
That's our work, but it's not a leak. It's not leaking, okay? But the meter on this,
I'm worried I didn't get all these. I thought there was 4. Just let us double check this math.
The warranty work, the warranty leak is not
Warranty,
included.
That's done, we're not
Okay,
paying
okay.
that. Okay? That one,
I got that one. This one.
that one, okay. This one, let me, yep, that's the week.
6.
This is Union
And this definitely illustrates why we don't want to tap renew and replace if we don't have to.
Right.
Is not a week
Okay, I got it.
today, but requires their.
So all of
Save that.
this based on these exact numbers is 32,4. And so rather than the 10,000 a month, my suggestion is to just approve this for up to 37. And if we get more, unless it's an absolute crisis, group them together, come back again, assign this out of renew and replace. When we get to the moment of payment of these, if we've got enough in our operating fund that it makes sense to take a little bit out of that, I'll circle that back around, but I feel like,
At least be able to
It's a
get the
better
work done no matter what.
yeah.
So this was, the money is essentially the same, but instead of being spread out over 90 days like we had discussed, it's gonna be just a lump sum.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much, you're right.
Well,
Yeah, kind of.
assuming there aren't more. than
Right,
that.
right, right.
And an emergency is a crisis is a crisis. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a geyser, you're gonna hear from him and say, I've authorized deployment, right? And
So, and those came in, those, I'm gonna say, kind of caught me a little bit by surprise with how much each of those came in. But looking at them, I think he pretty much was estimating, 2 days of work for each one. And I would hope that given, prior experience with some of these things, that they won't require a full 2 days. A lot of these are, and where the name is relative to certifying it.
And it seems like more often than not, they do come under the expected.
yeah,
I think that's fair statement.
Just out of curiosity, do they fix the pavement?
they will. If
Okay.
we rip it up, they'll fix it.
Okay.
That's part of
Okay.
their arrangement. Yeah.
If they can get it,
But-
and
But-
it's too late in the season and they can't go over and pick it up, then, we just camp it down
Yeah.
with, stone dust or whatever.
Will they come back in the spring?
Want to pay them to come back and do it, good. They wouldn't charge us to do that as part of this
Yeah.
work. We would basically have to hire them at that point to come back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 things here. One is to redirect the payment for the meter pit clean out project to the CNB bond proceeds. And the other one is to approve quotes 25 through 29 to Green Ridge for up to 37,000 out of renew and replace.
Okay. I move to reassign payment for the Green Ridge meter pit project from renew and replace to the bond funds.
Second on the motion. Second, Chris, discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And I move to assign up to $37,000 to be drawn down from renew and replace for Green Ridge work orders 26, 27, 28, and 29.
And 25.
Oh, 25, 26,
I told
29.
you wrong in the office. Yeah.
and 29.
Second on the motion. Second, Chris, discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, so the meter project is next. Sorry, I'm jumping.
Update regarding meter project number 4.
So we await the EPA. I did email and try to get an update. I got a response that said, I'm not working until the government opens. So unfortunately that's stuck there. We are still waiting on our billing software update. I'm going to call the salesperson tomorrow and kind of get into that pretty heavy with them. Steve met with Borderline today. You have a couple of,
So once EPA kind of comes through, then there'll be a notice. They're not really doing anything until a notice. Is however, based off of based off of, some, reasonable assumption that's gonna happen soon. They are, they're anticipating that we would be beginning to receive meters, in bulk the middle part of January. And then, they figure that I think they figure it's 400 meters per month installation. That's the installation rate,
40 per month?
400 per
400,
month. Okay, we have about 850, or 800, that includes big meters as well. So we're looking at a couple of months there, but they also are figuring weather-wise, they won't be installing these things, beginning to install these things probably until middle to latter part of March, depending upon weather. Okay. What else I have? I did ask them though and he's putting the folks in touch with me for, I think we're going to have 3. I believe they expect to have 3 poles or 3 collectors for the AMI signals coming in from the meters. Okay, they've done a propagation, what they refer to as a propagation study. That was done some years ago. So they have some idea as to, what the topography is and where all these poles, where the poles would have to go. I have asked them though to jumpstart that, because the poles, they will need to first off, they're going to need to either have an internet connection to the pole, which if it's in a building or something like that, that one way that could happen, or they're going to have a reliable cell signal so that they can, basically call out to report the numbers, into their base station. So we want to kind of figure all that out, figure where the poles are going to go. They need power at the poles. And so if these poles, depending upon where they're figuring the poles are going to have to be, that may take a little bit of, negotiations or permitting or whatnot. They're 40-foot poles, supposedly not all that intrusive, but it's not like, nothing. So recognizing what can, kind of take time to get something like that on, in the ground, and the approvals and authority to do that. I've asked them to, meet with me sooner rather than later so that we can begin to cite those, figure out what that's going to take. I have no idea where they're going, because I wasn't here when they did the propagation study, but hopefully we'll get that soon.
Do we know what they look like?
He described it as the antenna itself is, he said it's a dipole antenna. He thought it was not all that long. And then there's a electronics box that's up the base of that small box. And then there's a larger box at the base.
So is it like a telephone pole?
That's sort of how he described it in terms of, I said something about, just in terms of my anecdotal experience with the Park Service requirements when one of the cell companies wanted to put the cell tower up by the tanks and how long that took to get approved. And he said, that's when he said, well, this is just a 40-foot pole. It's nothing, kind of big like that.
I sort of envision it something that could go up against the building.
Right.
Or against that pillar.
Well, can it go on a pole?
Put it in a building. He was telling me that they had someone they were able to put it inside an attic. So, some of the stuff that goes up in that. But they have already kind of situated where these are going to have to be in order to get the appropriate coverage. But that doesn't tell me exactly what the solution is. They were just kind of spitballing it at that point to say, if give the topography, given the whatever, this is where these would have to be in order to get, reasonable coverage.
For the purposes of that, I think if we could have them, if it's possible to put their equipment on an existing pole, would be a better solution.
This isn't at this point to kind of get into exactly how all that's going to happen. I'm just saying I've asked them to accelerate that so that we can begin to have those discussions once we see things, so that this won't derail the whole project.
Storm.
If sorting all of that out takes longer than as we might anticipate that it would, it's not gonna hold up
Right.
anything, because we will still be able to do drive
Right.
around on the
Right.
meter, not one or the other.
That's the other, they also have to apply for and be granted a license by the FCC for this system. And that's typically a 60-day lead time. And that's, the FCC is not issuing anything until the government opens back up. So that's, kind of gated behind there. However, as Deb just said, their intention is everything will go in as, AMR capable, which means we will be able to read, the meters, by drive-by. And so they will be all there working and functioning. And as I understand it right now, I don't think the process to switch it from drive-by to AMI at the meter pit level is all that difficult. Okay, I think it's probably more software and just, at the 3 collectors, as opposed to having to go through and do a lot of work in each meter pit. Even if we have to visit each meter pit to do something, we're perfectly accustomed to, reading the pits. And that's the other thing, is this project is rolling out. If it's going to take them 2 months to do the work, realistically, it'll probably span 3 months worth of readings, where we'll still be reading half the meters or a portion of the meters manually, while the others will be reading more and more on a drive-by until we're all done. So we'll be in and out of these pits for still, some months to come before this is all done.
Storm.
This actually maybe an exciting opportunity. If they've done a propagation study, if they would share that with us, if we are looking for sites that are going to provide good signal throughout town, we might be able to piggyback on those sites to improve our cell signal or internet.
Yeah. Well, my question on that is, who owns the poles?
Well, we don't know yet.
I mean, if they put poles up there, our poles, I hope.
Yeah, that would be
Well,
ours.
they would not own them, but they could be, if they're on somebody else's property and you're attaching it to a building, they're, I don't know.
I get that.
Okay, but this equipment, we're buying this equipment.
And we're gonna be
Right.
assuming the responsibility for ongoing costs, so the
Right.
education was an element.
And I would imagine, we're paying to put the payments to put the poles in. I don't know the line item on the contract or whatever, but I would hope that there's a line item in the contract to install the poles.
But the
Install
telemetry
these.
for that on an ongoing basis, that service, that's gonna be our cost as
Right.
time goes on.
Yeah.
Great pairs.
Right.
Anything else on the meter project? Okay.
Just to clarify on the EPA, they had told you originally that we're carrying on without interruption, and then that totally changes next time.
I emailed her with the bid results, on October 2nd. No, after, council met, so I think it was the next week.
Right.
Right, so that's like basically like two and a half weeks ago. And she said a couple days later, thank you, I'm gonna put this in my queue for review. Things are moving along normally, but it could change at a moment's notice. And then when I followed up and said, hey, I'm meeting today, I was just wondering, how things are coming along. I got an automated response that said, I'm sorry, I'm out of the office, I will not be returning or checking my emails until the government
The moment's
appropriations
notice arrives.
is reactivated.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds understandable. But based upon that first conversation, it sounded like, was she talking like it was a formality and that?
It is basically a formality. I mean, they already approved our bid before it went out to the street. So our requirement is that if it's over a value of over $250,000, our project manager, who she is, has to review the bid result and bless it. And that's what this step is. So she has the bid tabulations proving out that this bid result is the lowest bidder, and then she has the bid itself to review and I guess make sure it conforms to the bid specifications. And I would imagine that's really her role. And then I guess she, you know, clicks the button and says, all right, they're going to start asking for funds. I mean, as far as I've heard, this being fiscal 24 monies, there's no hold on any of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if I went into the portal and asked for the monies, that somebody would be there checking it off and letting it go. I don't know how that works either. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was going to be my next question after we got her approval. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we'd be good 30, 65, 30, 45 days off before anything would happen billing wise with them. You know, I don't think they're going to be billing us until things start happening in the spring.
So this timing is actually good. I mean, not good if we're
Well,
gonna,
it's not terrible.
I mean, the
Yeah.
government being down, it doesn't really impact us.
Well, I mean,
Well,
yeah. if
I
it-
mean,
And I go far. Yeah, if it's another 60 days that the government is shut down, we're all gonna have.
yeah.
It would be nice if we could issue the notice to proceed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, that if we issued the notice to proceed tomorrow, the meters aren't going in the ground tomorrow. There's still work to be done. But, and I think that based on the things that they told you about their 60-day lead time for the meters, et cetera, they were kind of anticipating a notice to proceed by December 1. And I think we can be somewhat optimistic that that might happen.
Okay, anything else on 4? All right, number 5, discussion regarding police department vehicles.
Short version is there are a couple of vehicles that need an awful lot of work. One that puts one of the vehicles close to dead. And this is going to significantly eat into the maintenance funds that we have assigned for it. And in budget and finance, Deb had brought this forward. We also, Jesse mentioned, is there any reason that we cannot do a lease arrangement? That's an open question, because we do have $30,000 currently set aside for a vehicle. Originally that had been $70,000, we knocked it back. But that is the short version of where we are.
Yeah, so starting back with the fiscal 26 budget, from fiscal 25, we had reserved $32,000 to go towards the purchase of a new vehicle, and it had been anticipated that in 26 we would come up with the other half of that and initiate the purchase for one vehicle. We're trying to keep, you know, replacing a vehicle either every year, every other year. Given the uncertainty of the economic outlook for fiscal 26, the council at that time just kept the 32,000 that had already been reserved in place, releasing the others due to the uncertainty. So there's going to be a budget revision in November. We're going to be re-examining that. There are we have 5 vehicles right now, the oldest of which is a 2013. And that one needed a new alternator, brakes. There's a couple other things. So that's about a $2,800 bill. The mayor has approved that to get that back on the road. And then another one needed more normal maintenance, but was having some issues, and that's $1,300. So those 2 bills, budget and finance reviewed, those will come probably forward. I'll probably have the invoices for the next council meeting. Those will be on there. But that bears the question, since we had allocated $9,000 in the budget for the police department for repairs in the year, this, along with the repairs that have already been done, will eat up all that $9,000. Now, admittedly, when we clawed back the $30,000 to not go towards a new car, we didn't adjust the 9. We probably should have done that, so that will need to be done. But at the same time, Jesse brought forward the idea of possibly leasing. He's looked into that a little bit, and I think we'll probably ask the council to, I think we'll probably try to do some more research on that in the next week or so in preparation for our budget and finance meeting in November, and try to come up with a plan for that, because with $30,000, I think, and I'm going to talk to the state auditor's office, but I think as long as we can have the lease written so that we can break the lease if we would need to for some very unusual reason in administrations to come, that would not encumber the future administration like a loan would.
You know, and just for perspective, I mean, there are things we have to figure out, but for $30,000 a year, you're looking at, you can lease 5 whole police cars for the same money. And, there's a lot of advantages that come along with lease. I think Christian knows more
Well, I
about
was a finance manager, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And, anything like this, that's a capital expenditure that has an expiration date on it, like vehicles and technology and stuff, looking at leasing is should be considered as a viable, at least, avenue for research.
That way we'll avoid the big repairs
Yeah.
later on.
Right.
And yes, it's an expense. Yes, you're
Yes.
paying all the time, but then
Right.
you
But we already are.
But,
Yeah.
it's a very viable thing to look at.
and I looked at what other municipalities are doing, and this is not new territory, industry wide. But they are booked. The lease is booked as a standard liability on the books, and because we do have right of use with the product. It's effectively ours for the duration of the lease, and it's standard to treat it like just a normal financial liability.
And both GM and Ford have programs that are designed specifically for municipalities. And as we review the wording of all their basic language, it's very clear that they understand this requirement not to encumber a future administration. So I think there's a way around that, and we'll be looking into that to include in our presentation. Just wanting to get that into your minds.
And if it's like consumer leases, when the lease is up, you have an option
Yes,
purchasing the
that is
vehicle as well.
also
I
stated.
assume.
That is also stated.
So,
Look at all police cars.
We need to make sure, sort of like with the consumer lease, that there's not some limit or something that might.
We'll dig into it.
All that, yeah.
And at my meeting tomorrow with John Brown, I have asked him to bring in all the leasing information because we leased before, way back when. And he said he has a file full of that stuff.
well, yeah,
So, I know. Got
Did you
Um,
express any opinion on it, or?
Okay,
he said he'll get the file and bring it in tomorrow, so I'll find out tomorrow.
I think you should let the council make that decision. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Discussion action regarding snow removal contracts for 25-26 season. If you recall, at the October town council meeting, we talked about this, and then we deferred a decision on me endorsing the contract based upon further conversation with Ken Sayer. And Jesse and Christian and myself met with, or had a telecon with Ken this afternoon at 3:30. And one of them we'll bring up at the other council meeting, I think, the rescission.
Okay.
Yeah, we could, yeah. As a result of that, I think the issues regarding that Christian brought up and Jesse brought up have been mitigated, and I think that they are going to propose a motion for me to endorse the snow contract as presented to the town that we put on the table 2 weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that the direction?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, let me just bring up the other item. The other item will be the rescission of the ordinance, which is contained in 909. And we had considerable discussion with Ken on that. And I think at the November meeting, there'll be a proposal, be a motion to move forward that is rescinded from the current ordinance that we have. And that has the backing of Ken Sayer. But we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to consider the contract. So let me leave it at that and wait for a motion.
So, I would like to move that we approve the snow removal contract as presented, which does include the snow removal of the sidewalks.
And the lesser cost salt.
And the lesser cost salt,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I'll second
And a
that.
second discussion. All those in favor of that motion? Opposed?
Abstaining on advice.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0. All right.
Who made the motion?
It was Jesse, second by Christian.
Mhm.
All right. reach over your right shoulder, Christian, and pull that
Oh, yeah.
exemption off for me.
Let's get a big chart.
Yeah.
The ceiling.
Discussion action regarding employee personnel issue. Council, I am requesting that we go into executive session based upon West Virginia Code 698-4 to discuss matters arising from the appointment, retirement, promotion, transfer, demotion, discipline, resignation, discharge, dismissal, or compensation of a public official or employee or prospective public official.
I so move.
Is there a second? Second from Storm. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're in executive session at
38.
4:38.
Should we lock the door?
And Steve, you don't need to be here unless you. I don't think I'm going to need you. I will need the finance officer. All right, it's 5 PM. We're out of executive session. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so
We have a
moved.
motion from Chris. We have a second from Storm. Adjourn. Opposed, motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned at 5 PM.